What is up, y'all? It's me, Mike.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Hey.
It's a beautiful day here in Georgia, right?
Yep, I'm here with my wonderful co-host, my grandpa.
Yeah, and I got a haircut after seeing that picture that he drew and put up there. I mean, geez, that's not a great depiction of me.
You were looking a little rough, honestly.
I think what we're going to do is probably find another artist. I mean, come on. I mean, geez.
You hear this? This is how my family treats me, man. It's absolutely despicable, I'll tell you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it gets there. I mean, people see it and say, hey, okay, we got a deranged guy, his grandson.
Yeah, I think we would both qualify as deranged, to be honest.
Well, I mean, we work at it.
I think we do, for sure.
That's the way it is.
Well,
what are we going to talk about today, by the way? I mean, would you let me know? I mean,
yeah. I think that today we are going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, which I'm sure many of you know who he is. A well-known degenerate who was well-connected with the elites, the rich, the hyper-wealthy, politicians, all the typical players in most of these stories. But his story's super, super interesting, and, who he was connected with and everything that he did is just... It's crazy that it was allowed to continue to go on for so long, to be honest with you. I mean, I genuinely can't. It's like...
I agree. I mean, with the people he was with and all the evidence against him over all those years, it's like, how did this happen?
I mean, how was he not prosecuted?
Right. Yeah. It was just unbelievable.
Well, but that's just how it works when you're extremely wealthy. You know
Absolutely.
What I mean? You can just kind of do whatever you want. Seems like that's what they all do.
Right.
But,
Getting back to that greed factor, I mean, all these people are together,
Believe me, man.
We got to protect this guy because we want some of his money, right?
Exactly. Which is, that's what they were doing.
Absolutely.
The people hung out with him, wanted to be around him because he had so much money.
Right, and he did have quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think upwards of like $500 million,
$500
or $600 million.
$570-something million, I think, was in his will, something like that.
Which is freaking crazy. But yeah, I guess we'll start from the beginning. I think he was born in Brooklyn, New York. And I think he tried to go to college, but ended up failing out, and ended up at this school called the Dalton School, which is like one of the most prestigious private schools in the U.S. He was a teacher there. People said he was an easy teacher.
Yeah, taught mathematics, right?
Yeah, he did. He taught mathematics. But working at that school kind of allowed him to meet some people that would, elevate him in his life to become, the figure that he was, because so many super hyper wealthy people were sending their kids there. So, I mean, he would constantly meet people there. Like who was the main person that he met?
Where?
At the private school, wasn't it? I think it was Alan Greenberg.
Yeah, it was Alan Greenberg.
Yeah, Alan Greenberg.
Yeah. Because Alan Greenberg said it's kids' school there.
I think they met at like a parent teacher conference. Imagine having a parent teacher conference with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Yeah. But that the guy would always make connections wherever he was. So, the guy had to be, a spontaneous type fellow that everybody liked and wanted to be around, or he would not have gotten where he was at that time. And when you look at Alan Greenberg that he met there, he hired Jeffrey at Bear Stearns on the spot. And, the guy assumed he had a degree. And, he's throwing Epstein out there with stocks and bonds to sell. And, he was very successful. I mean, very, very successful. And that tells you what kind of person he really was. Matter of fact, he was made a limited partner by his 25th birthday at Bear Stearns. And it was, the guy did everything outside what most people do. He was He was fired for lying about his degree because he said he had a degree. And he could have easily gotten a degree. He was very intelligent.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he had the connections.
He taught school, like Michael mentioned, at Dalton School. And, how do you get it? How do you go in there teaching? Because he lied about his degree.
Yeah.
But he was also sleeping with his secretary, which is sort of,
Par for the course.
You can't do that. And,
No.
and he's also being investigated by the SBC. So he was like, this guy is becoming somebody that we do not want in our organization because, he's somebody that's going to cause us a lot of trouble.
For sure.
But the guy had already started making his mark, though.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I guess, he went on and started sort of out on his own, right? I mean, somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, he had made the connections. He, had made a pretty decent amount of money already, and people knew him in the financial circles, I believe. And so he ended up meeting this dude named Les Wexner, who was like a magnate who owned a bunch of different businesses. I think he owned Victoria's Secret, Bed Bath and Beyond, and like Abercrombie and Fitch at the time, and then like some smaller businesses. But I mean, the dude had more money than God, and basically somebody set him up with Epstein and told him like, oh, this guy is a financial guru. You should allow him to manage your finances. And so, the guy, against better judgment, I guess, allowed Epstein to take over his finances. And basically gave Epstein his power of attorney, which I don't know if you know this, but it basically allowed him to just kind of do whatever he wanted with this dude's money. And he did. I mean, he gave himself like $400 million. He gave himself this massive mansion in Manhattan, the famous Manhattan mansion where...
The Epstein mansion.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing was worth like $80 million or something crazy like that. So he gave himself all this money, man. And obviously with that money made a lot of different connections. And one of the main connections that he made was with Victoria's Secret. And so what he started doing is he started like basically using his connection with Les Wexner to say that he like worked for Victoria's Secret or whatever. And he would tell these young models from Manhattan that like he could get them a job as, the next runway model. And he used that position to do some, let's say, unsavory things with these younger models.
Well, yeah, he'd get like 25 models over there, and there'd just be 2 people there.
Yeah. I mean,
there would be nobody looking at these girls or anything to determine if they could be a model. So it was just one of those things. Typically, Jeffrey Epstein, that's his MO. I want it. This is the way I'm gonna get it, and he goes on down the road, and he was very successful with that.
Yep.
And I guess next thing he meets Ghislaine Maxwell at a party, and of course she's attracted to him because she was part of the Maxwell family that owned a lot of printing things, and her dad died off the. Matter of fact, he fell off a boat and drowned.
Well, that's what they think.
That's what they think. But he owed. The guy was deeply in debt. He was about to go bankrupt because his printing empire had basically fell apart.
Yeah. Well, newspapers just completely tanked, man. With the advent of the internet.
Absolutely. And Robert Maxwell was a smart man. He did a lot of things right. But the bottom line is, he was in the wrong business at the wrong time. The internet came up, and boom, newspaper printing just flew out the door. And the thing is, Ghislaine was one of these people that wanted to meet people and powerful people and.
She was young. Yeah, she met
when she was young, she's meet with the Kennedys, the Clintons, and because Maxwell was smart, he contributed to different political institutions, and as a result, you get in the door to see all of these people.
Yeah,
but anyway,
she also knew the royal family too. like fairly well while she
absolutely.
was young.
Absolutely.
You know, she knew the royal family, and she was like super, super well connected. You know, Epstein was not at all well connected. I mean, he was well connected in certain circles, but once she came into the picture, she kind of was the you know, piece of the puzzle that allowed him to have access to all of these, you know, insanely famous and extremely wealthy people because she'd grown up around all of them.
Yeah, and they sort of rubbed each other's back because it's like anything else. It's who you know and what they've got and how can you get it. And, you know, and also, you know, Epstein had some money. So the people he was running into during this period of time, she wanted to know also because the amount of money that he had, because they were after him, you know, for donations and the life he lived, and they wanted to party with him and do other things, you know, get together at retreats. So it's one of those things that you rub my back, I'll rub your back.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, you know, a sinister person here, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and his main thing at that point in time was, you know, just running around partying, doing what he was doing. I mean, he was like a multi-millionaire playboy at the time, and so, you know, she, especially after the death of her father, like really wanted to, I think, find somebody that had the money. You know, she had the connections, but he had just this insane quantity of money, you know? And I mean, she introduced him to Donald Trump, so there was a connection, I guess, through her father, who was like really good friends with Trump or spent a lot of time with him. And once Epstein and Trump met, they, you know, immediately became very, very good friends. You know, this was in I think the 90s. But they would party together all the time. They, you know, they were going on trips together. They were doing all kinds of stuff together. I mean, to the point where, you know, they were being photographed together quite regularly. And I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen the photos of Trump with Epstein. I mean, they're all over the internet.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, if Trump tries to deny it, now they did have a falling out, which we'll talk about later on. But the bottom line is that Trump had a real good friend there, and knowing Trump and his basic desires in life, he was probably involved in some of the things that Epstein was. You know,
I think most of these people are involved in it. You know what I mean?
I would think.
Yeah. You know, the more we looked into this story, the more it's like, well, I guess like literally, know, it seems like everyone's involved, man. Like. It's just so crazy, but because it's like nonpartisan too. You know, all these people are like, I mean, we're hanging out together, you know, and I feel like the more you look into this kind of stuff, it's like, well, you know, these people are constantly at each other's throats, you know, politically, but then you find out like they're all hanging out together behind the scenes, you know, it's just bizarre. Like, it really is, man. It's crazy. I mean, and as far as Trump goes and Epstein, I mean, they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They like threw I think it was a Victoria's Secret, like, it was a Victoria's Secret, like competition type thing to get models. And they had a bunch of models. This was at Mar-a-Lago, and come to find out, the only two people in attendance were Trump and Epstein.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's just crazy.
It's like what?
You know, and I guess as this thing moves on, Maria Farma was a sort of a starving artist. She becomes a receptionist at Epstein's mansion. And she's revealed a lot of information about, you know, what she saw and what happened there. You know, she said she saw streams of girls coming in there. They had uniforms on, like, you know, they'd been to a Catholic school or something, man. You know, or some other school. And, you know, and they were coming in, you know, talking about, hey, we're going to model, things of that nature. And, you know, it's one of those things that you look at with the people that going in there, you know, the Clintons, the Trumps, the Dershowitzes, you know, all of those people going in there and meeting with him at his mansion. And, you know, it's like, you know, what's going on here? I mean, couldn't they meet at a club downtown?
Well, yeah.
Or whatever? I mean, why in a secluded place like a mansion that he got through ill dealings. To be honest with you, and she was and Maria Farmer, was abused as a child in New Mexico, and.
At that like baby farm ranch thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is like an even crazier part of the story.
It is crazy. And it's just, what goes on here is just unbelievable. I mean, it's sex trafficking to me at its worst.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
There's things happen in life and people do things that they regret, but this was not a regretful thing.
No.
This was like
and these people, they didn't care.
ongoing, never ending, and here's a guy that had everything to live for, had a great mind, and he continues with this.
Yeah, I mean, and once he was arrested too. I mean, he just even after he was arrested, he kept doing it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the first time, in Florida.
I mean, like you were saying, as far as the mansion goes, it's like these people were just so blatant about doing this. Everybody knew who Jeffrey Epstein was. Everybody knew what Jeffrey Epstein was about. And these people just knowingly, showed up at his doorstep and didn't care. Because again, I mean, especially back at this point in time, the news media wouldn't cover stuff like this. It would never happen. Before the advent of the internet, they would never cover, they wouldn't cover something like this.
Absolutely. It's like, well, it's not good for our business. And, so Epstein, moving away from there, Epstein says, hey, I need to get a little private place where I can hang out. And he purchased a little island off St. James Island.
Yeah, it was
it was in
not St. Lucia, but
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas,
yes.
I think. Yeah.
And you got a guy that says, "Hey, we'll just buy this island for $8 million."
Yeah, I can just buy an island, bro.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and buy an island, since people are starting to like pay a little bit of attention. Because Maria Farmer, I think, ended up actually accusing him publicly, which prompted him, I think, to buy the island in the first place, because he was like, okay, well, maybe, there might be some investigations into me. Maybe there will be a little bit more heat on me. And so, he buys this whole island and ends up building this, like, there was a movie theater on it. There was a bathhouse, like a Japanese style. He had all kinds of stuff going on there. I mean, it was super, super, super crazy. And I mean, around this time as well is when Virginia Roberts, when they found
16 years old.
Yeah, which they found her at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago, she claims, and it's probably true because Alan Dershowitz was there a lot of times.
Yeah.
She claims that he was, she was assaulted by him.
Yeah, but she was just a masseuse. That's what they're constantly claiming.
And he says, I was there, but I had on my underwear.
Yeah.
He said, I never took my underwear off. And the thing about it, you take Alan Dershowitz, I mean, he's, famous for, courtroom trials.
Yeah, Harvard graduate.
Right. And, when... who was Alan Dershowitz's lawyer when everything come to a head, which is later on? It was Alan Dershowitz. He was there for him because I think.
Well, he was Trump's defense attorney too during the impeachment as well. All these people are super interconnected.
Yeah,
man.
right. It's just like a wad of bugs,
Yeah, I mean, literally,
that you can't get rid of.
Literally, it's just crazy, man. Another just weird thing that I just remembered now is Virginia also said, she said she was assaulted by Dershowitz, but she also said Matt Groening was at the island as well, who's the creator of The Simpsons, which is just bizarre, man.
She said he was the nastiest, stinkingest guy in the world.
Disgusting.
Said his nails were so crusty, his toenails, that
she need a buzzsaw or something. Yeah. It's like, just bizarre, man.
And this is the guy that did this, creator of The Simpsons.
Yeah, man.
But
and around this time too, I think is when he got he had a bunch of money, obviously, so he had several different private planes. But I think this is around the time that he got the Boeing 727, the Lolita Express.
That's what he called it.
Yeah, which I mean is this like crazy decked out plane that he would use to traffic women, but also to do what he did, which was chauffeur all these rich billionaire playboys around to different countries, to his island, all over the place. People like Trump, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking, like all these
Prince
people.
Andrew,
all these people.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah. Chris Tucker, Kevin Spacey,
right,
who about Kevin Spacey, man.
Yeah.
When I saw his name come up.
How about George? How about George Mitchell, the former Senate Majority Leader?
Oh yeah, man.
All of these people were trucked down there, man. It's just like, it's just hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's crazy. It really, really is. And what's even crazier is, we were talking about Prince Andrew. And so I don't know if y'all have seen the interview with him on the BBC, but you got to watch it because it is like one of the most unhinged interviews I've ever seen in my entire life. Like at several points, this lady is just grilling him about this case with Virginia Roberts, because he claims, I never met her. But then later in the interview, he claims like, that picture of her, it is me, but it wasn't taken at the time that they say it was taken at. And
it wasn't made in the UK. I didn't take her anywhere.
Yeah, at one point in the interview, he claims he doesn't sweat. He's like, I couldn't have been at the club because I don't sweat. It's like, what are you talking about, man? And he says he's like at a pizza place with his kids. And I mean, it's just really, really bizarre. And then after the proverbial shit hit the fan, he ended up meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. So post Epstein being arrested, he met up with Ghislaine Maxwell and is asked point blank about this in that BBC interview. And I mean, he just sits there like dumbfounded. He's like, we didn't talk about Epstein. I don't, he was old news, like it's like just bizarre. You got to watch that interview if you haven't seen it because it's just absolutely unhinged. I mean, it really, really is unhinged, man.
Yeah, and you take somebody like Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, why does Bill Clinton get involved? Of course, we know about Bill Clinton and his desires in life, but one thing he desires was $4 million that Epstein gave him, to the Clinton Foundation. And what they do with that money, I have no clue. They probably pay themselves a huge salary every year. Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Yada, yada, yada. He took 20-something flights on the plane. And now these could have been, this for the Clinton Foundation, whatever, cover they use for it. But the idea is that, there was very close relationship with Clintons. And I'm sure Miss Clinton was involved in this in some way.
Well, it's not like she didn't know.
As far as the money part of it, not necessarily the other stuff.
Well, and again, one thing to remember as well is like every single person that ran around in these circles knew about Epstein. They knew what he was about. They knew, you know what I mean? So like you see your husband hanging out with this dude, which it wasn't just, it was a regular thing. Like, just like with Trump, Bill Clinton, it was a very regular thing that they hung out. You know what I mean?
Who was it? Like Trump says, he likes the real young
which in that same quote, Trump's like me, we like young women.
I mean, and Epstein visited the White House, I don't know, 17 or 18 times while Epstein was,
Clinton was in office.
While Clinton was in office.
Yeah,
and,
which, what?
I mean, who gets in the door like that is because they're giving a whole lot of money to a whole lot of people.
Yep, exactly, man. And I mean, that's what he was doing. That's how he, created this entire operation, is by giving so much money. It is just really crazy that he was at the White House 26 times, man. Like, how do you excuse that? Like, what do you? I don't understand. How are you supposed to excuse that? And I mean, like you said before, $4 million he gave. And speaking of him getting a lot of money, I guess eventually he decided that he wanted to have a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The baby farm.
Yeah. He creates, he has this ranch, I think, in Nevada, and he decides that he is going to use his connections, which he has a bunch, to basically start this program at Harvard. to launch this program on evolutionary dynamics. He gives him $6.5 million. And Harvard, of course, agrees because, no one's going to know.
Yeah,
we'll
getting back to what we talked
yeah.
about yesterday,
Money.
They need that endowment fund to grow.
Yep.
And $6.5 million helps it grow.
Yep. And I mean, they continued to operate. And I mean, his plan was to like impregnate, I think it was like 20 people or something. He built this whole compound, a hospital, everything.
I had a delivery room at a lower floor so that they could deliver the children.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is so insane and bizarre. Like the fact that Harvard allowed this to happen, and then once it came out that Epstein was the one that donated the money, of course, Harvard's like, oh no, we can't. Yeah. Never mind. We didn't know.
We don't want to get involved out of here.
Yeah, man, likely story, dude.
But I never did read where the $6.5 million was given back. Did you?
I know. I don't think. I'm pretty sure they never gave it back, man.
But anyway, long story short, as far as Epstein, a lot. If you do something long enough, you're gonna get caught.
Yeah. And he did.
And at a school, where one of these children in Florida went to school, they found $300 on the student, and they investigated it, and found it went back to Epstein, and it was
the massages,
right?
Again,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, and that's what they said. This is massage. We having these little girls to come over here and massage people. Yeah, can you believe that? Hey, this is my masseuse. She's in the 8th grade. I mean, it's like. But anyway, he donated a lot of money to the local police, and
a lot of money.
And he knew how to move people and control people, and that's what he was. He was a control freak.
Yeah,
and the whole staff down there
at his little mansion thing.
Yeah, was at his place, was complicit in what he was doing because they knew what was happening with these little girls that was coming in. That Ghislaine, what's her name?
Ghislaine, I think.
I
think it's Ghislaine.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's just Ghislaine. I think the S is silent.
Yeah,
I've read this name so many times in the last 12 hours, man, and watched a million different videos, and everyone pronounces it different.
Yeah, everybody does.
I think it's Ghislaine.
Okay, but at any rate, she's the one that got all these girls in there and did all the secretarial work, if you will, to get them in there. But it was like, the guy gets arrested. He's got all this evidence against him.
Yeah,
he was only in jail for 2 hours.
Before he posted bail. And guess who his lawyer was?
Yeah, Alan.
Yep. Yeah. Good old underwear Alan, man. Alan Dershowitz.
They were down there on top of that. And,
of course. Snapped into action.
And, and they got, the big thing about it, the DA that was down there that put together this agreement with him, they, basically said that all the other people involved were absolved of any crimes or anything of that nature in this agreement. Now, tell me how something like that happens. And this chap that was the DA down there, he ended up in Washington. What did they have? Transportation secretary or something?
Yeah, he was. I think he was Trump's transportation secretary.
Yeah. I mean, can you believe
Acosta?
That?
Yeah, and that's what ended up getting Epstein capped is because. When Trump got elected and there was so much media publicity around him and negativity surrounding him, they wanted to find any instance where, he was wrong or his cabinet had committed, some sort of crime. And so, of course, every single person that he had elected or put into office was under extreme scrutiny. And of course, Acosta had made this crazy plea agreement, where this dude who is a known, trafficker, basically ends up with only 13 months in jail. I think they actually sentenced him to 16, but he got, or 18, but he got 5 months off for good behavior. And then they allowed him to have a work release too.
Yeah, listen to this work release. He would on work release 6 days a week.
Yeah,
and he was gone 12 hours a day. And guess where he went? He drummed up this thing while he was in jail.
Nonprofit. Which it seems like all these people have nonprofits,
and he would, go there and do his nonprofit stuff. I mean, the guy was just an insane crook, and he got away with it, and everybody knew it. You know, and it's just crazy. When you read this and look at the history of it, you're saying, how in the world does this happen?
Yeah.
And somebody goes steal a loaf of bread at Walmart, they put in jail for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, man. You get caught.
Hey, man, I was hungry,
Yeah. You get caught with a decent amount of, bud, and you're down the road, man. And this millionaire can literally, harm hundreds of innocent young people and just walk free.
Right.
I mean, it's just a perfect encapsulation of our country's justice system. If you have money in this country,
value system.
I mean, and if you have money in this country, man, like, you can keep yourself out of trouble.
Right.
If you have money in this country, you can absolutely keep yourself out of trouble, man. And that's one of the main issues with our justice system. On a little bit of an aside, is that it is an unfair playing field. Like, the more money that you have, the more likely you are to get a plea deal, the more likely you are to get off, man. And I think this story just proves that.
Well, yeah, and so anyway, things go on, and Maxwell, she says, I got to get out of here. The heat's getting bad.
Said, it's time for me to hit the bricks, boy.
They absolved her of anything, as far as Florida's concerned, not necessarily federal. So here she goes. She takes less with her, because this guy had his fortune, basically part of it taken from him by Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of it,
signed
man.
off that power of attorney. And
so there goes his pay pig, man.
Yeah, right.
There goes his sugar daddy out the line, bro.
Yeah, and he's stolen so much. He was given power of attorney. I don't know how he got the money, but it was absolutely crooked. So and then he just says, hey, what else can I go do down the road to attack this democracy we live in? And
so I think shortly after this is when he started the billionaire dinners,
right?
Or started funding them, and which is like it just sounds evil, man. Something about it, like, which I think it absolutely was. I mean, so this dude, I think he hired a publicist or something.
He did,
yeah. Some lady
in New York, yeah.
So this dude hires some kind of publicist who basically gets him in the right people and kind of launders him back into a normal fixture in society. And part of this, I guess, was him starting these billionaire dinners, where he would basically wine and dine these tech execs and give them money and, talk to them. And I mean, these dinners included people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey Brin, who is from Google. I mean, all of these incredibly, incredibly wealthy and powerful people were there. People like, Bill Gates, who, again, if you watch any interviews with Bill Gates, man, where he is talking about Epstein, it is absolutely hilarious, dude.
Yeah,
he just can't hold it together,
his story changes every time.
Every single time, man. Every time.
This is why I was with him. This is what we were doing. This is
my marriage was failing, so I went to the child island. Right. It's dude, no one believes you, man. And I mean, Bill Gates is a scary guy anyways. All this stuff that he's done in the last 10, 15 years is kind of freaky, man. All the stuff he's done in Africa, all the stuff he's done in South America.
Oh, yeah. I like the one okay, the guy is going to give money to my philanthropy.
I'm going to win a Nobel Prize, as if the dude doesn't have billions of dollars. Right. Why do you need this dude's money? You are a billionaire, man.
Yeah.
You have more money than you could ever spend in 100 lifetimes, dude. Why do you need to hang out with this weird, creepy dude at his island? It doesn't make any sense. And I know to him it didn't make any sense. I mean, because again, anytime, somebody brought it up, he's like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. I just tripped and fell and Jeffrey Epstein was right there. It's what are you talking about, man?
So what does the poor guy do? He starts importing Russian women to assault.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're connected with the Russian oligarchs, right? I mean, the big guys in Russia. And
I think the Russian government, these wealthy bankers, all these extremely, extremely wealthy Russian billionaires, they're had this state-run operation essentially where they were trafficking young women. And of course, Jeffrey Epstein, being the young woman bloodhound that he is, sniffed out this operation and began using them to import potential victims, and kept doing it and kind of did it under the radar because they weren't really U.S. citizens and they didn't really have anybody to look out for them or to look for them. So like he was essentially getting away with it. And the only real reason why he, stopped getting away with it is because Trump went into office and, Trump elected Acosta like we talked about earlier. And so, like we said earlier, again, Trump's election of Acosta basically prompted all of this investigation. And, the previous court case with Epstein came back up and they decided, we're going to reopen this because of public outcry. And I mean,
and what did Epstein do? He moved to France.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He said, God bless and Godspeed.
He's got an $8 million pad in France, and hey, I'm off to Paris.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no extradition. So.
Right. Well, because 15-year-olds can have consensual sex.
Well, that too, as well. Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the reasons, and he didn't think he would get extradited because of that.
Yeah.
Except, we'll talk about it in a minute. Except, if you come back in the state, you don't have to be extradited.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But the big thing is. The feds opened this up and says, hey, we're looking into this. Something happened with that 2007 case that's not right. Something's wrong about this. And plus, there was a lot of these women that were, sort of involved in this at a young age that were coming to the forefront and saying, hey, this was wrong. I was involved in something that I was, sort of drawn into and paid for. I mean, in some of these, just in this Florida case, I couldn't believe they started going through the trash.
Oh,
Yeah. And
then they find like a girl's report card.
They found a girl's report card.
It's like,
in there.
bro,
Can you believe that? Where's your report card, honey? Geez, I left it over at Jeffrey's house.
At my massage. Like what in the world, dude?
Right. But I mean, that's the way it was. But at any rate, he made a decision to fly back into Jersey. And of course, the feds were on top of him. They knew when he would be landing.
Yeah,
and
the feds are undefeated, dude. Yeah. If they're coming after you, it is game over for you. Man.
As soon as he hit the runway, it was like, here you go. You're going off to jail. And he was trying to fight it. Alan, Dershowitz says, hey, let the guy go to his mansion. Matter of fact, he put up his whole wealth, which was $700 something or $500 something million, ever what it was, and says, hey, I use this for bail. And they wouldn't let him go.
Well, for good reason, clearly.
Yeah. But at any rate, they wanted to let him go and stay, at his mansion while the case went on, but that didn't happen.
Thank God they did not let this man go again, man. So yeah, he was stuck in jail. I mean, and they did like a simultaneous search warrant, I believe the feds did, where they busted into his mansion at the same time they arrested him on the tarmac.
Right.
And he ended up at the Metro Correctional Center in New York City, which I lived in New York City for a long time, man. And like you, especially from locals there, you constantly hear about how bad the jails are. Like it is so bad.
Well, they said that the sewage pipes in there were so rusted and so old that, body fluids and other stuff was coming out in these cells, and jail cells, and and the noise from one place to the other is just constant.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The New York City definitely, it's the jails there are no fun,
But as a matter of fact, they closed that jail down after that and had to rework it. It was so bad.
That's what happens when the guards don't do their rounds and cameras aren't working.
Well,
who knows about all that? I mean, so basically he's in jail, man. He is getting extorted constantly, as people do in jail, especially incredibly wealthy people. So, he's paying rent to stay in jail to all these inmates. he's hiding, he's doing whatever he's doing, man. And what he would do is he would get all his lawyers, right, to come in 12 hours a day. And obviously, because of the way our country works, they have to allow you to see, whoever is representing you legally, because it's an important part of the process for you to be able to communicate with your lawyers. And so he could go into a room and basically just chill for 12 hours a day outside of the pod.
It was unreal.
Which, again, I've been to jail. It's not a fun experience. Any time outside of that pod is like very good. And God only knows what he was doing in that room. I'm sure he was on a phone. I'm sure he was, doing whatever he was doing, So he clearly should not have been getting that amount of time out, but was anyways. And God only knows how much money he was giving the guards and everything else for that to be allowed to happen. You know?
Well, anyway, the poor guy's in jail, and he tries to term unalive himself.
Yeah, YouTube's safe term.
He tied a sheet around him, or supposedly tied a sheet around him. He was resuscitated, went to the hospital, and of course they put him on a suicide watch. And for about a week, they put him on a suicide watch. It says, hey, this guy is, he saw the psychiatrist there. And of course, this guy is probably a fantastic communicator, because, I mean, he could go in and talk to a psychiatrist, and the guy says, oh, this guy's not crazy. So anyway, they took him off suicide watch. And at this particular jail, they had like 18 guards for 700 and something prisoners in a jail that was made for 450 prisoners. And you've got this crazy guy. Now, he's about crazy, because living in that environment versus
clearly he was pretty deranged beforehand too. So God only knows, because being in jail makes you even crazier. You know what I mean? It's like being a cage. It's like being an animal in a cage, man. So God only knows what it did to him mentally, especially somebody who's lived in the lap of luxury their entire existence, to go from that to like a roach infested pod full of like degenerates who are extorting you in the middle of New York. I'm sure he was beside himself with the conditions there at the correction center in New York.
Yeah, and what happened? The courts finally released all the data against him, and it looked like he would probably spend the rest of his life in jail.
Definitely.
So what alternative did he have? Did he want to live in squalid conditions, and he'd always had this, an island, thing.
Yeah, I mean,
had an island,
a bunch of houses in different countries, a literal island. It's just, I mean, what do you think that he was going to do? And so,
so what did the man do to himself?
He unalived himself, or so says, the people in power there at the jail. But there is some pretty weird stuff surrounding that, especially like the fact that, number one, the camera wasn't working.
Right.
So, or actually it was working
on his cell.
Yeah, but it was working, but then they somehow managed to lose the footage. The guards doing the rounds never did the rounds. The night that he did this, his cellmate was taken out of the cell. I mean, it's a little bit bizarre, man. I mean, you've got this guy who is connected with all these high profile people. He may be, willing to collaborate with the government agency that's currently coming after him against some of these other people. And not only that, but I mean, the dude was known for, having all these photographs, like the photographs of the prince, man. That photograph exists and is, one of the most compelling pieces of evidence against the prince. You know what I mean? Because it's a photograph. There's nothing he can do to refute it at this point. So,
and we did at that point in time when that was made, there wasn't such thing as artificial intelligence.
No.
I mean, you can't make that look like that now.
No. So there really wasn't anything that they could do. I mean,
and you look at this whole thing. So what happens? The guy is left alone. He unalives himself. Literally this time, they try to resuscitate him. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. There's all kind of excuses of why it happened. Why the the cellmate was taken out, why their camera didn't work, why there were no guards. And, you can look at it and say, and plus think about all the people, if it did go to trial that he could bring in there and, and powerful people, not that any of that happened, but it
could have.
The theory's there.
It definitely could have. Did he unalive himself, or was it done by someone? But it's all sort of mysterious, and there's reasons for him to do it, and there's reasons for him not to do it. Other people, of course, there were terrible places where he lived. It was overcrowded. Understaffed. There is a school of thought that says that it was because of the jail that he was living in was just not up to snuff, which is why they closed it down. They claim that the reason that all this happened is because they didn't have working cameras and they were understaffed.
Right.
And
the two guys, of course, the guards that were supposed to have been guarding him were on 16-hour shifts. And basically they said they went
on Facebook messing around. Playing Farmville, dude.
They said one of them went to sleep and the other one was on Facebook. So it was like, okay.
Yeah.
So you go from there, and what happened to his right-hand woman after, all of this happened?
They got her too, man. But that's like a whole other can of worms.
One thing you got to remember, we're getting toward Christmas. She was born on Christmas Day in 1961. I couldn't believe it when I saw when Gibson was.
I didn't even know that. That's bizarre, man.
How she got involved in this and how it grew like it did is just, unimaginable.
It's bizarre, man. Yeah. It's really bizarre. And even in his last moments, so he put all his money, I wanted to talk about this. He put all his money in this 1953 trust, which is apparently the year he was born. And this trust, the reason that he did this, or the speculated reason that he did this, which I had never heard about this, was because it would make it harder post-death for him to, for the
feds.
For the feds and for the people that he had, taken advantage of to get the money, because it's in this this trust. So it made the money much, much harder to get to. So even in, death, he was still like playing the system to some extent, man. It's just psychotic.
Yeah, it is psychotic, and he ruined a lot of lives.
Definitely,
from a mental standpoint, I would think.
Oh my God,
but it's just one of those things. How parents, when you think about these young girls, how parents didn't know or wasn't involved in it. I just don't understand.
Me neither.
At any rate. That's the story.
That's Jeffrey. It, man.
And we're glad to share it with you. And if you have any questions or any ideas about future podcasts,
let us know, man. We'll do whatever kind of content, dude. Do not forget to like and subscribe, my friends. We're gonna be here hopefully most days, man. It's hard to research and script all this. We're gonna see how everything goes. But yeah, this has been so fun, dude. And I'm so excited to sit on here and mess around, with my grandfather.
Yeah.
and tell him about all this unhinged stuff that I learned about because of the internet, dude. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it, you live and learn, and so this is a learning process for me.
Yeah,
so,
man. But
we're going down the road. But.
Absolutely, dude.
All right.
Well, thank y'all so much, man. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah. Good one.
Thank you.